Well, that's very nice of you.
You were an amazing player, amazing player.
I appreciate it. I'd like to think I always played with my heart on my sleeve. That's what I was always told by people. Like you play with your heart on your sleeve, and I think I coach that way. I think that's honestly, I think that's just how I am as a person.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here we are live in the Volley Talks. Hello, everybody. Hello, boys and girls. Today is Friday, May the 21st, and we have today a very special guest in our episode 159. It's a very pleasure to me to receive one of my youth idols of volleyball, international volleyball. I say hello to Caren Kemner to Quincy University in Quincy, Illinois. How are you, Caren?
I'm
Nice
great.
to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Oh no, I'm very glad. Well, as I told you before, I started this project last year. I have had a lot of volleyball, international volleyball personalities, and you, of course, one of my targets. Was one of my targets.
Well, I appreciate it. Again, I'm always up for talking about the game. I just hope I can remember all the good stories, and I get excited about the future for it. I think volleyball's got a great future.
Yeah, we will talk about that, of course. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to this broadcast. Please feel free to share, to interact with the streaming. We will talk for the next hour with the three-time Olympian and bronze Olympic medalist in Barcelona. Is right, Caren
Correct.
Kemner. Thanks a lot, Caren. Yeah, you guys, Caren was, I gotta say it again, one of my youth idols of volleyball. I started watching volleyball in '84 with the Olympics in Los Angeles, and Caren played in Seoul, in Barcelona, and in Atlanta. And she was a very hard player, very strong, very. It was very fun to watch Caren
Good.
Kemner play.
Good. I was waiting for that other word. Like, what's the next word? Uh-oh.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm very excited, really. Trust me, because I'm very excited to be talking with you.
No, you're great.
Yeah. Well, you are right now in Quincy University, right? You
Correct.
were appointed as a men's volleyball head coach
Correct.
last 2 months.
Yeah, about 3 weeks ago. It's happened really fast. I was at Culver Stockton for 11 years, and Quincy is obviously my home. This is where I grew up. This is a campus that I truly grew up on as a little kid. So it's surreal. It it's just so nice to be home, and I wish it could have happened sooner because Quincy University, it's an amazing place, and just have this opportunity. And in the later part of my career, to think that I get to coach a Division I men's program, it doesn't get any better than that. I'm home. I'm coaching the men's program. Like, we're good.
And well, your conference is strong. As I know, it's Ball State, Lewis, Ohio
Uh-huh.
State University, and Indiana Purdue Fort Wayne, the
Yep.
home of Lloyd Ball.
Yep. And I'm actually going to see Lloyd Ball in about 2 weeks. We're doing a camp together.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I'm excited about that.
Okay. Please ask him if he wanna be here in the show.
Okay,
It's gonna be great for me.
I will do that.
It's a legend also, Lloyd Ball.
He is. He is definitely a legend and a wonderful man.
And he's still playing with Team Pineapple.
Yeah, he's crazy. I said he's a wonderful man. I didn't say he was smart about it, but he's a wonderful guy. But I can't imagine. I mean, I applaud him for still playing, but I know there's not even a chance I would try that. Not enough ice in the world.
Yeah, and you mentioned that Culver College, Culver University, where is located?
Culver is right across the river from Quincy, about 35 minutes from here. Culver Stockton. It's an NAI school where I was at for 11 years.
Okay, it's in the area.
Yeah.
Okay, it was your first job as a coach in
My
Culver?
first one back here in the Midwest. I mean, I've coached at different clubs, kind of volunteer assistant at different institutions. Actually volunteered here at Quincy University about 15 years ago. And then I went to Culver, and now, like I said, I'm back happily here at Quincy University.
Okay, that's great. You are in home, you told me.
Yep.
Hey, Caren, please tell us something about your beginnings in volleyball. You were born in Illinois, not the greatest place of
No, not the
volleyball.
not the hotbed of volleyball, especially, 30 years ago. I stumbled.
It was your first choice volleyball. Did you practice
No,
softball also,
it was
right?
my second choice. Softball was my first choice. I stumbled on the volleyball. Probably say my freshman year in high school, going into my freshman year in high school. Softball was always my passion. It continues to be, except I'm not very good at it anymore. Uh, and then a friend of mine's like, "Hey, you want to go to this volleyball camp?" And I'm like, let's go. I'll try. And my freshman year was pretty successful. But I would say about my sophomore, junior year, the sport really just took me over. Like I found a sport that ticked all the boxes for me. I found a sport that was very athletic. I found a sport that was fast paced. I found a sport that, you have to think in a moment's notice. And not that other sports aren't like that. At that time, it just really kind of integrated itself into me, like this is a sport that I should play. And being 6'2", it was not easy because I was considered very tall. So volleyball also fit that sport. And then God blessed me with a lot of talent. Like I had a pretty good jump. I had some hops. So I would say about my junior year in high school, I forego playing basketball or anything else, and I stayed strictly to softball and volleyball because they also were at the opposite end of the spectrum. They didn't cross over with each other. And even going into college recruiting, like Cecile Renaud, she was at Florida State, and I went down there for a recruiting trip.
Yeah, she told me that she was here
Yeah,
in the show, and she told me, "Hey, I always wanted Caren Kemner to be here in
yeah.
Florida."
And so I went down. I met Cecile there, and so I looked at schools for both softball and volleyball. I looked at Oklahoma State, Arizona, San Diego State, Tennessee, and Florida State. As you can tell, I kind of stayed toward the warmer climates. But Arizona won out. It was a beautiful visit and a wonderful opportunity for me. I played my first year at Arizona. I played just volleyball. My second year, I played both volleyball and softball, and then I left to go to the national program. So it all
Wow.
happened really fast.
Yes, I can imagine. How was the possibilities of club volleyball at that time in Chicago in the Midwest?
See, I'm not even really close to Chicago. I'm closer to St. Louis. And to be honest, I didn't know. And I wasn't really concerned about playing club volleyball because I was so committed to club softball. Um, our softball program was one of the top programs in the country. We actually finished second in the country. We were really good. We had a great window of softball players around here. So I was very, like I said, I thought was going to be my first draw to college. And then I had the opportunity to see the women's national team, I believe, play Japan in DePaul, at DePaul University when I was in high school. And my friends and I still talk about this. We were sitting in the rafters watching this game, and I just kind of jokingly said, well, maybe one day I'll get out there. Maybe one day that'll happen to me. And I would say it was that summer I met John Kessel and Laurel Kessel at a camp up at Graceland, where Stu McDowell's at. And John's, I would say, is about day 2. They were like, okay, we need to talk to you. And I didn't know what they were going to talk to me about. I had no idea. I didn't even know what I was really doing. I just knew that I got to jump and I got to swing. Like those were the 2 things that worked for me. And they introduced me. They made some calls to Ari Sellinger, who was the coach at that time in '84, and said, you might want to take a look at this kid. And again, not knowing how this all unfolds. Quincy at that time was maybe a town of 30,000 people. And next thing you knew, it's just like volleyball, like the whole recruiting process was so different back then too. Like it was overwhelmed. There was really no guidance, no protectional systems in place. Like it was just phone calls 24/7, to the point where I couldn't even be home by myself because the phone would ring so much. Like my then best friend, who's now my sister-in-law, would be at the house if my parents left, just in case someone called. And on my trip out to California, I went out and I trained with the '84 Olympic team. And I've shared this story before, that I'm not even sure if I was able to breathe. I was so excited and so nervous, almost in tears, because I was meeting Lori Flockmeyer, Sue Woodstra, Rita Crockett, Flo Hyman, Debbie Green. Like the list goes on of people who were on that court that I saw not that long ago as a kid, and I'm sitting in the gym with them. Like I was putting my shoes on next to Flo Hyman, and she's like, "How are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't even know how to talk to you." Like I was so nervous.
That's what happens to me right now with you, really.
And it shouldn't. But she was wonderful about it. Everybody out there was wonderful. It was my first introduction to Ari, and I think I did okay. I think he looked at me with somebody like, not that I was a good volleyball player, because I wasn't. It was more of, wow, I've got this athlete that I can mold. You know, I've got this kid who can hit right-handed, who can hit left-handed, who can jump. He asked me to roll. I always tell this story. He wanted me to get into this defensive drill, and they were going from the end line, digging balls, and they would roll out of it and come back. And he's like, "You should jump in." I'm like, "All right, I don't know how to roll." Like nobody's ever taught me how to roll. Still to this day, even with the national team, I never rolled. Like, and I'm glad I didn't. I think I would have killed somebody back then before the '84 Olympics. You know, rolling into Flo Hyman would have been horrible. So it definitely wasn't that I was a good volleyball player. It was more that I think I was just an untapped athlete that this sport that I would fit into. Even coming to the national team after the '84 Olympics, when I then made the new national program, I had a lot to learn. And I've shared this story before too, that on the other side of that curtain was a team that you mentioned that you idolized, was our '84 men's team with Karch and Buck and Timmons and just a, you know, just a vault of greatness when it comes to men, you know, volleyball. And so I would look through the curtain and kind of watch Karch. I didn't know how to pass, so I watched Karch. I still never know how to roll, but I watched them play defense and they dive. I'm like, okay, I'll dive. Like they were my distant coaches. You know, those were the coaches in the shadows that probably didn't know I was watching them as much as I was. And they were outstanding. And even though I may not talk to a lot of them, I will always give them credit for just being there and being so great as they were, to be able to teach me things.
But you didn't make the '84 team.
No, I was not on the '84 team. I was asked to stay and train. But again, I was terrified. There's no way I should have belonged on that team. That team was exceptionally good. And being a small kid, or being a kid from the Midwest, I just wanted to go home and talk it over with my parents. Like I didn't know what my next step was going to be. Again, I didn't really conceptualize what NCAA Division I athletes were even like. There was no system in place for me really here in Quincy to say, this is how it works. So we were kind of flying blind. But I knew that I was probably not emotionally or even intellectually or maturity wise ready to move to California and be a part of a national program. I know in years past, like years later, kids have done that. Kids have left high school and gone onto the national programs, and I waver on that. I think there's good and bad to it. I know for me, it was a challenge. I mean, there was a lot of difficult times. Sometimes I wish I would have stayed in college longer. But, you know, looking back at that moment, I felt like moving on to the national team in 1985 was a good decision for me.
Okay, and once you left the practice facility in '84, your goal, or you said yourself, I gotta be in the national team for '88?
No, I didn't say that at all. I mean, I really didn't. I mean, I just thought it was an incredible honor to go out and practice with them, and then have them consider like, hey, I remember Ari telling me, you should come here. You should be with us. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm 17, 18 years old. I don't know if I'm ready for that. And so I went home and just took a lot of time with my parents and contemplated, like, I really felt that the best thing for me to do was go to college first and have that experience. Like I had so much to learn in this game. Just because you're a great athlete doesn't make you, put it this way, just because God's given you all this athleticism doesn't make you a great athlete. There are a lot of tools that have to go with that. And so I respected the fact that, like I said, I was tall, I could jump, I was quick, but I had so much more to learn, so much more. And it was a big learning curve, but it worked out. I will always tell people that as much as God gave me the ability to for athleticism, I think the one hidden gem that he gave me that I didn't realize till later in life is the mental stamina and the mental capability to really deal with it and be successful.
Great. You mentioned a few minutes ago Ari Selinger.
Mhm.
How was how does mean Ari Selinger for you as a mentor?
Yeah, Ari and we're kind of like oil and water. We get along really good, but we challenge each other. I'm definitely not a player that sits back and just goes, okay, okay, okay. Like I want to know why I'm doing things. Probably too much. But I met Ari in 84, 83. And then again, I played for him for 2 years in Japan. I think he's got an incredible brain for the game. I mean, there's no doubt there's a lot of us who have been fortunate to have him as a coach. He's very intense. He's very knowledgeable. And like I said, there were times where I know we butted heads, and I'm sure he would have just preferred I walked away. But I think he also respected that in me. I know off the court, I find him incredibly interesting. His life and everything that he went through, like he's somebody worth knowing in your life if you really want to understand struggle and how to be successful.
Amazing, amazing. You are not the first person that that tell me that.
Yeah, I'm sure he's coached a lot of great teams.
Okay. Well, before 80, after 84, you joined the team in 85. What how was the environment at that time? Because well, in 84, national team won silver. What was the expectation for the next squad?
Oh, I don't know. I heard different things from people. I mean, obviously, we were young. Virtually everybody from the 84 team left. So we were kind of starting over from scratch, which I don't know if it's good or bad. I'm somebody that always wishes there's some rollover and there's some transition, especially for the athletes to help them through the process. I think it's harder for coaches because they want to put their stamp on everything. But I think it's nice to have that continuity between players. It's something that I missed when I came onto that team because years later, when I had a chance to meet like Rita and Lori and see them in person, it was a chance for me to go back and honor them. Like, I'm not taking your place. I'm hopefully trying to carry on your traditions and in the sport. And I think that's something that I wish I would have done earlier, but I just never saw them. So we were young. There was not a lot of players in practice initially because a lot of them were still in college and finishing up their college career. We definitely took our beatings, but that's a part of it. Again, we were a young team. Even if you look at 88 Olympics, we were by far the youngest team there. China, like this, I mean, just think about the different teams that were there: China, Peru, the Russians.
Yeah, the Soviet
Cubans
Union
weren't
in
there. The
84.
Russians were there. The Cubans weren't there. There was just a lot of talented teams that had a lot more years under their belt than we did. But I was really glad that we qualified. I was excited for that. Let's just say from the first Olympics to the last Olympics, it felt like a lifetime. But I was just so much more prepared. Just moving into 92, like just having that time and those 4 years under your belt for us to grow our program and expand. And we continually added better and better athletes, better and better volleyball players, where 92, I'd say even in 96 was by far our best team. But I think internationally, it just takes that long. It's not something that just the turnover of a coach or a turnover of a program, it's just going to be voila, it's perfect. It's not. There is a transitional period that's hard.
At that time, Caren, in the late 80s, which teams or which players did you amaze most? Or the teams the hardest to play for you for Team
They
USA?
were all hard. They
All
were
of them.
all hard. They just were. Again, it's not just that we were young. It was just, gosh, we were young. China was obviously extremely good. They retained a lot of their players. They had a setter. I can't remember her name. And this is what I struggle with when I do these interviews. I'm so embarrassed that I can't remember the names of all the people I played against. They had a setter that was phenomenal. Peru back in the day was phenomenal. Was with Natalia, Cecile, Gabby. Like, that was a great team. We didn't play Brazil that much early on. I do remember the first time I saw Cuba warm up. I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting.
Oh yeah, Mireia, Magali.
Yeah, all those guys. Magali wasn't even on that first team yet. It was Mireia mostly, and she was a baby. Sad to say, so was I, but she was even younger than me. Who else? I don't know. I think it's hard because everybody for us was such a challenge in that first quadrennium. When we moved into the second quadrennium, we definitely found our footing and became more balanced with the middle to the upper pack. Like when we got into 90, like the Olympic air window of about a year and a half, we were definitely sitting, I would safely say, within the top 5 teams in the country. We found what made us good. We weren't taking systems from here and here and here. We created a system that was designed around us and our athletes and what our capabilities were.
Right. Caren, we have some messages here in the Facebook chat. My very good friend Annalisa Ramirez from Torreon, Coahuila, Mexico says, Caren hit the point. Athletic skills are not enough without mental and emotional skills, of course. Yep. And she says, awesome talk with such a legend.
Oh, well, thank you. It is. It's very, being successful in anything you do in life is not just about one skill. It's about, if you're fortunate enough to find or acknowledge the other skills that make you successful and figure out a way to make them work in harmony. And I didn't always have that, by no means. Like I said, I'm sure I was a pain in somebody's rear, pretty confident of that. But, at the same time, through that process and through the setbacks and through all the good things, you have to find balance into what makes you successful. And I just had a good head start with the physical attributes. I need to catch up with the mental, the emotional, and all those things.
I agree with you, because a lot of people may think that volleyball is only technical skills or physical skills, and not. It's a lot of emotional.
It is. It's a very emotional game, and that's what's weird when people watch volleyball for the first time. It's hard for them because it happens so fast. It's so fast, and then you try to translate that by actually being on the court and moving that quick, and then symbiotically 2 teams are moving against each other and understanding it. It's a very intelligent game where, and I remember John Kessel told me this. He's like, Caren, the only time you get to hold the ball in volleyball is when you serve. Everything else is reaction. Everything else is a directional aspect that you're trying to do. And we're one of the few sports out there. I think, okay, ping pong, you get a paddle. Badminton, you get a paddle. Like, there's different sports. If you try to correlate it to, there's very few sports where you're willing to stand in front of a ball being hit 100-something miles an hour, hit it, yell up, and then move on to the next instantaneous part of the play.
Yeah, right. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
My very good friend, Fidelmar Munoz from Xochimilco, says best player in the world. Thanks for the feeling.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
And well, once Seoul was ended, you start the next squad, and voila, all the teams were developing very good players. Cuba, of course, Cuba in 92, Cuba in 96, Brazil in 96, Russia, Soviet Union, etc. So how do you think the national team, the USA national team, confronted this? How did you prepare for the next 2 Olympics?
How did we prepare? I think the most important thing is, like I said, we were stable. We started to find a groove that defined us. I think we had better and better athletes that were staying long term. I know getting Paula Weishoff back to the program was very instrumental. Like my first Olympics, I was on the right side. 92, I had moved to the left. Paula had moved to the right. You have the Odin sisters as our middles are phenomenal. We had T and Tara. Like, I think just a lot of good things came together. But I also think that, again, I go back to is we found a place that we were comfortable in competing together as a team, as a unit. I think we had some great coaching. I mean, obviously Terry did a great job. Greg Giovinazzi, and Jim Imes. Like Jim Imes was my first coach in my first Olympics, and then I got Gio. And each of those coaches had huge impacts on where the program went. I'm trying to think like what was the exact moment, and I'm not sure. I want to say it was World Championships in maybe 1990. We were up against Cuba. I forget who was in the finals. I've got to believe the finals was probably Russia and China, maybe, for that. And it was us and Cuba for the bronze medal. And Cuba had come out and hammered us, hammered us good. And I remember after the match, after we won, matter of fact, that the people in the stands, there were other teams that were watching, were actually placing bets that Cuba would win in 3, and we actually came back and won in 5. But it was an explosion. I still will watch that match. I have it on a DVD. I'm sorry, we still use those. And I just remember some of the oversets, like in the first couple plays, it was like literally, kish, kish. And I remember us going into a timeout, like, we got to stop this right now. We got to slow down, and the key to being successful in volleyball is slowing down the point spread. You just got to always stay close. And we always felt that way with the Cubas, the Russias, the Chinese, the Brazils. If we can stay close, if we can stay within 1 or 2 points, we have a chance. And I know that's logic, but it put us in a position where emotionally we were able to gain those 1 or 2 points and then turn the tide. Because all those teams, other than China, I would consider to be very emotional teams. China is very stoic in how they play. Brazil, Cuba, even I would say Peru, but Peru was so gifted that even if they showed emotion, they were still great. But there was a time when we just changed the tide emotionally in matches because we were able to stay close enough by siding out because it was old scoring, staying in there, and then within 1 or 2 points, all we needed is a break, and then the tide would change. And that's where that emotion is that we talk about. The volleyball is so emotional. If you can win the game emotionally, it's amazing what you can do. And it's an internal win. It's not like running around clapping hands, doing cartwheels. It's an emotional win that you have as a team that carries you on for those next couple points.
Wow, amazing stories, Caren. Thanks a lot. Well, then you as a team won bronze in Barcelona. Okay. Yeah. Do you remember that match, the semifinal?
I remember everything about '92. Sometimes I want to forget it. First and foremost, I remember that we lost to Japan in pool play. We beat Russia for the first time in the Olympics history, which was a great match. I think that match went 5-2, if a matter of fact. I think Art had like 50-something kills, and I was right behind her. I mean, she and I were just going to battle against each other, but we ended up winning. Then we crossed over with Cuba, and that match went 5. And I think that's the match that I most likely want to forget. I really felt in my heart we had that match won when we crossed over, when we switched sides, and it just didn't happen. Obviously Cuba went on to win it all, which says a lot, but I felt that there was a good chance that we deserved to be in that gold medal match. It just didn't work out. And what was amazing about losing that match to Cuba, we had probably less than 12 hours to recover and come back and play Brazil for the bronze medal. And Brazil at that time was obviously equally as good. I mean, that was a really loaded team. I remember too, match point, Gio was calling in signals from the bench, and Lori, myself, and Elena Odin were front row. and Gio had switched Lori and I for blocking purposes. And I believe it was Anna Mosier who swung for match point. And I think it was my left hand. It could have been mine and Elena Oden's, but it just seemed like the ball took forever to hit the court and land. I think Elena and I talked about that later. Like that was the longest point ever. Like it's up in the air, it's up in the air, and then it hit the ground. And then suddenly you realize like, oh my gosh, we just won an Olympic medal. So I remember lots of things. I'm also grateful to say that I also don't remember things, which is good too. But it was a great Olympics. 92 was awesome. I just wish we wouldn't have lost to Japan in that window, but it was great to turn around and come back and beat Russia.
Well, you were the best scorer of that Olympics with 167 points. At least that's what Wikipedia says.
Oh, yeah.
And best setter Lori Endicott and MVP Paula Wisoff.
Yeah, Paula had a great Olympics. Like I said, her coming back to our program, and I want to say she came back in 90s. I don't know, and it wasn't, yeah, because I think she played middle for us in 90 at the World Championships. But when we finally moved her to the right and then put me officially on the left, a lot of great things happened. Like Paula was the master of the 1 foot behind. I don't know how she did it for as many years as she did, but she could just juke anybody out of their uniform running 1 foot behind. And then, like I said, we had the Oden sisters in the middle. Lori did a great job. And usually it was T and Tara who were opposite of me. We had Leanne Sato in the back row. She would like kind of before liberos really existed. Like we just had a good squad that competed so much in practice. There was times that we would walk out of practice and not talk to each other. Like it was not, I wouldn't always say it was a healthy competition, but it was competition at the highest level that you could imagine. Like there was times where, yeah, I'm not talking to her today after practice. But that's the environment that you want.
Yeah. And in which position did you feel more comfortable, playing right or playing left?
I always thought right. Like there was never, I always teach kids this, like part of being a good hitter is knowing that every shot exists every time, no matter what you're set, no matter what the situation. You just have to have faith in the ability to do it. And when I was on the right side, there was always going to be a line shot for me. Always. Didn't matter. Didn't matter if there was 3 blockers up. Didn't matter if you put all 6 people up there. I was going to be able to hit that line. I understood why I moved to the left side, just to keep swinging and handling more of the load. But I really liked being on the right side, and I thought I was a really effective blocker on the right side. I was somebody that I was comfortable being one-on-one blocking.
Yeah, I remember you very, very well playing right, always right. I remember very well that. Wow, amazing. And what happened after Barcelona in the way you team are preparing for Atlanta in USO?
Yeah. By the time myself and Paula again came back, we had gone, like Paula and I were lucky too, because every time we played overseas, we almost always played together. So we were in Brazil together, we were in Japan together, which really formed an amazing friendship between she and I. When we came back to the national team, I would say about 94, maybe 95, we came back for the 90-16. And again, it was, I think what was good about our program then, and it exceeded before that too, like leading up to the 84s, there was always some continuity as you go through the crossovers after Olympics. You hope that you have a good base core that stays and that you have the opportunity to add to it and continue to grow. And I think that's exactly what happened after 92. There was a nice group that stayed behind while some of us went and played professionally and not knowing if we'd return. I mean, obviously it was always a goal. So a lot of those younger players that we had in 92 that maybe didn't have as much experience have gained, 3 years of experience. So for Paul and I, it was just kind of like fitting in the plugs. What did you need us to stop? And I think that's what Paul and I excelled at. We played every position possible on the court. We would play right, we would play left, we would play middle. Whatever we needed to do, we could fill those gaps. And I think the other thing that Paul and I really brought back with us, a little, an unusual perspective, because we had lived overseas so much. So we had a different understanding of those teams that we were playing. And I remember when we were playing in 96, we were behind against Japan. I don't quite remember the score, but Terry put Paul and I in, and I think it was like 11-4, 11-5 or something like that. Japan was up, and Japan had to call a timeout because we ended up being up 13-11. And part of that was just this familiarity that Paul and I already had, obviously playing against Japan, but also living in that culture and understanding things a little differently. We were also very ball control oriented, the two of us. So there was great things. I wish I was on the court more in 96, but I understood, of my role. And I think that's the other thing that was really important going into 96, that there's a lot of us who had a tremendous amount of experience. Like you look at Danielle Scott, who played in 5 Olympics later, she was on the bench next to us. There was a lot of people who we understood our role, and whatever role that was going to be needed to be filled to get to the gold medal podium, that's what we were going to do.
And what meant at that time for you and the team losing World Finals against Cuba in US soil?
In 92?
In 96.
Oh, 96. Oh, yeah, we did lose to them again. Way to bring that up again. Oh, crappers. Yeah, that was, I don't remember a lot about that match other than getting in a little bit of a barking match with the Cubans toward the end. It was a good match. We didn't play well enough all the way through. And I think Cuba was definitely hitting a stride. I thought they weren't like this anymore. Cuba was very much more of a neutral, flatlined way they played. Like I said, all I remember is getting blocked, somebody saying something to me, and I wasn't happy about it. I remember Elaine Young's in a timeout. She's like, "You're not supposed to yell at the net." I'm like, "I know, I forgot about it." So that was tough. I think 96, I think if there was any Olympics that was disappointing, it would have been 96, because I really feel that every single piece of the puzzle was in our favor as a team. And as Olympics prove, one match and it changes your fate. It really changes your fate. And I think that's sometimes what people forget about the Olympics. Like, it's 2 weeks, of just really high stress and high pressure. And one moment, the whole world gets to see and watch, and it determines the outcome.
Do you think there were a lot of trash talking in the Cuban side?
No, not for me. I guess I had gotten used to it, but I will tell you this, and I think this is something that I had learned through the years. Like, I had tremendous respect for the people that I played against, mainly because they taught me a lot. Like, for me to get better, like I mentioned, I was watching the men's team a lot. I'd watch teams that we would play. I'm a very visual person, so I was constantly having like this videotape in my head going of how I could be better. If Maria Luis can hit that shot, can I hit that shot? If Artemanova can block this, can I block that? Like, how do I do what they're doing to become that good? So for me, yes, when I was on the floor, it was all about going to battle. Absolutely all about going to battle. But when I was away from the floor, there's very few players in my years that I did not respect enough to go up and have a conversation with and learn about their culture, learn about them. Like, to be more than just a player, like to be more than just a volleyball player. So it also reflected when I got back onto the court. Like, yes, there was times it would get chippy through the net and chirpy, but there was always this connection with a certain player, like Maria Magali, and I always had that connection. Anna and I had that connection. Like, we're going to have these moments of saying aggressive things, but there was always a way to put it to peace. Like, you know what, we've got this. Let's get back to playing. I don't know if we have that internationally. I don't know if we have that right now because I'm not that connected to it. But I know there was many times where things would be said, and I would have like Maria Magali would come over, especially in 96. They're like, "Caren, we've got this." And I remember saying something like, after all this time, I don't deserve this. Like, I was just so frustrated. Like, no, let's go.
Yeah, because you remember the Cubans were very, very confronted with the Brazilians since the World Championship in '94 and then
Yep.
in '96. A lot of trash talking, a lot of even pushings players.
Yep.
Well, I remember that very, very well.
Yeah, and I can't say, like, for myself, again, looking at our team, we weren't trash talkers. We really weren't. Um, and I honestly don't think there were a lot of teams that were. I think there were certain cultures that ran into each other. I think Brazil and Cuba had a culture that was going to run into each other. For us, we just wanted to compete and play. Very few times would I ever hear anybody on my team say anything through the net. It was usually me. Okay, let's be honest. It was usually me. Or I would hear somebody saying something to our team, and that's when I would intercede. Like, no, you don't get to do that. You know, if you want to get to them, you have to go through me.
Okay, Caren, and what happened next? Well, after Atlanta, did you keep playing internationally? Did you retire? How was your transition from being an international player to be a coach?
Yep. I wouldn't even go from being an international player to a coach that quick. I would go from being a professional athlete to, I played some beach volleyball for a while
Oh, really?
on the AVP with Carolyn Kirby, Lori Forsythe, Gail Castro. Had a good group of people that allowed me to kind of step outside and play on the beach, which was a wonderful experience. I only wish I would have done it sooner. I think I just kind of ran out of gas mentally. So I think for me, it was more of going from being a professional athlete to wanting to hide a little bit, like just retract. Um, and for lack of better words to say, feel normal. Like what was normal? What was normal going to feel like? Because I joined the national team at 20 and left when I was 32, 33. So that window was pretty long. And I wanted to step away. And I've said this to many times and many times openly, like I wanted to find out who I was away from a sport. You know, who am I away from volleyball? Who am I away from this? Like, who is that person that's on the inside that you have to kind of compartmentalize? You have to put certain things away to be successful. And you have to know when you can open them back up and kind of reinvestigate it. And I spent a lot of time just, you know, sadly making probably lots of bad decisions, but at the same time, lots of good decisions to find out exactly who I am.
Oh, thanks for sharing, Caren.
Thank you.
And we have a message here again from my very good friend Annelisa Ramirez. She says, more talks like these ones, please. Thank you, Alex, for giving us the opportunity to interact with our favorite players ever. Thank you, Caren, for being here.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
And my very good friend, Dr. Medina, he's from Mexico, from Querétaro, Mexico, now living in Seattle, Washington.
Oh.
He says, greetings from Seattle. Great to hear from a power player. I'm driving.
Oh, well, thank you.
Okay, so in which year did you start to think I can become a coach, a volleyball coach?
I'm not exactly sure when it kind of, because I like I said, I'll be honest, there was a long time where I didn't want to be involved in sports. I worked construction jobs. I just tried to melt into society in some different way. And then probably about, I'd say 16, 17 years ago, I wanted to start getting back into sports, and I wanted to figure out why I was getting back into sports. Like, it's not just to coach. It's trying to create a culture that we go back and allow kids to have fun again in sports. I think it's something that we've lost. We've kind of disconnected with playing sports should be fun. Like when I played as a kid, I didn't do it because somebody forced me to. I didn't do it because I wanted to be the best shortstop. I did it because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the people that I played with. Yes, I enjoyed winning, but I enjoyed every aspect that went with being involved in sports. And I think in the American culture, we've kind of stepped away from that. So when I came back in and decided to stick my toe into coaching, I wanted to be very clear about what I wanted to bring back. And I wanted to bring back the joy of learning, the joy of competing, the importance of being mature, um, the importance of, if you're lucky enough to play a sport, hopefully you're lucky enough to play it for your whole life, and that not everybody gets to do what I did. And I think that was the hardest thing to try to convince people. Like, just because I'm your coach doesn't mean this is going to happen to you. You know, that's not how it works. I hope, honestly, more importantly, yes, I want to help kids be successful in the sport of volleyball, but especially now being in the college atmosphere and the importance of academics, you know, I think it's equally as important that hopefully somebody I've coached is on the Supreme Court, you know, like cures cancer. Like, those are things that are all equally valuable to me, and if not more valuable. And so I see those things as success factors.
Okay, thanks for sharing, Karen. Um, I want to ask some volleyball questions for
Sure.
you. Um, which uh, which players do you think were the most challenging to face during your playing career? Some names.
Some names.
The hardest to block, the hardest to
The
hit.
hardest to block for me was always Wu Dan out of China. She was an opposite. She also ran the 1 foot, but like, I would say honestly, even better than Paula. China could run a slide play or 1 foot, whatever combination, in their sleep and be successful. They were so good at it. And Wu Dan, I just never could block her. She just irritated the heck out of me. She always just slid right past me or in front of me. And she was a great person too. She could pass and play defense. Um, I always liked playing Maria. Like, Maria was always fun competition for me. Uh, Another challenging player.
The most difficult to break the block or to pass on the block for you?
You know, oddly enough, I don't know if I've ever put anybody into that category. Like, Wudon would have been the most challenging. Maria was challenging because of her athleticism. Anna Mosier was challenging because she had a variety of shots. Artemanova, I'm trying to think of the other one. There was another one that was with Artemanova.
The hardest on the serve.
Hardest on the serve. I think Ojenko had a great serve. Ojenko, and then Magali and Maria, they also, like, a lot of the Cubans just went back like 25 feet beyond the end line and just launched these bullets. Yeah, and then right. These big arenas, like the wind capacity would just like whoosh, take them off the court. I thought the Cubans were always tough servers. Like I said, Ojenko had a unique serve, and it wasn't anything unique that she did. It just had a lot of movement on it. There wasn't lots of jump servers back then. The Russians had some that were jump servers. But I think on the women's side, jump serving for us is like doing a down ball because we spend so much time with ball control. Give me another one.
Another question?
Yeah. I'm thinking on that because I'm still boggled. I can't think of somebody who was so impossibly hard to block. I don't know. I like I said, Ludan is probably the most challenging for me.
You played against Cecilia Tait from Peru?
Yes. Yeah, but that doesn't count because I was young. And she had a nasty left arm. She had an angle shot that was really good. And the good thing is I didn't really have to block her because I was on the right side.
Yeah, right. Good news.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, Natalia, and I forget the other outside hitter for Peru.
Zenaida Ribe. The setter was Rosa Garcia.
Yeah, Rosa.
Oh,
they were like little bookends. They were both shorter.
Gina Torrealba.
I don't think it was Gina. All I know is the two outsides, and Natalia was one of them. And I can't remember the other ones, but they were both shorter. They had every shot in the tool book. Like, they knew how. They were just so talented with the ball, like hitting off the block, hitting around the block. They were pretty impressive. And again, you have Cecilia, and then you had Gabby. Like, it was a great team.
Yeah, right. And in today's volleyball, can you mention some player that amazed you? that you say, hey, this is a great player. I can pay a ticket to watch this player in a match?
I think they're all really good. I can't say that I can name one specific person. I really can't. And I know that's bad on me, like shame on me. Um, I don't think I watch it the same way as I used to, if that
Okay.
makes sense. Like I don't look out there and go, oh, that person's really good, or that. I'm just kind of watching the entire flow of everything.
Okay. Here is my friend Alfredo Guaman Munoz from Peru. He mentions Gina Torralba, Natalia Malaga, Gaby Perez, y Denise Fajardo.
Denise Fajardo, that's it. Denise Fajardo. She was the other outside. And like I said, they were little bookends, and they were phenomenal.
Great. And Caren, which game did you remember the most? The most challenging for you, or the most difficult, according to the circumstances, according to the place or the weather? Did you remember some, or the relevance of that game?
Yeah, I mean, there was I don't want to say unusual places, but there was places because I was so young and went to new places to play. In the Dominican Republic, one time we had Norseca down there early on. I was a baby. I want to say, I can't even remember when it was. If I came to the team in 85, maybe 86. Um, it was an unusual, I remember because how do I explain this? Like our compound was really out in the middle of nowhere, and I always kind of compared it to Gilligan's Island as a kid, because I felt like I was just so removed, and that was my first probably major trip to one of the islands. Um, the lights went out. I remember one time the lights went out and people like swarmed the court. And I remember Jim Imes was trying to keep us all together because none of us knew what was happening. Like the lights just went out. It was dark. Let's see. I do have some other ones. So I just thought of one. Crap. I hope I can remember. Cuba. One of the amazing things about one of our trips to Cuba, and again, it was a Norseca Championship. It was early on. I forget the assistant coach's name at this point.
From Cuba?
Yeah, all the coaches there were great. There was Eugenio.
The second was Antonio Perdomo, Nico.
Yep, Nico.
Augusto Morales.
Yeah, Nico was awesome. Nico and I would always play baseball together. We'd always throw the ball back and forth.
He died 4 or 5 years ago, you know?
Yeah, I saw
Nico.
that.
Yeah.
But we were down in Cuba and we were watching the men's match. It was Cuba, USA. Karch was still on that team, so it was early on. And I was sitting next to the assistant coach of Cuba, and just sitting there watching, you know. And I remember him saying something special is going to happen. I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means, but I'll sit here. And the match between the men's team was a dogfight, very much a dogfight. And I want to say it was like 1-1, potentially something like that. And then the whole gym erupted in screams. And I had no idea what was happening. Again, I was a baby. Fidel Castro came in. He walked down and the place erupted for about, I would say safely 10 to 15 minutes. Where the match couldn't even be played. It had to be stopped for a little bit because it was so loud in there. And I have a picture later where I'm actually with him, Fidel Castro. And I thought, that's a pretty unique experience in your life, to have the opportunity to witness that in an arena and feel that, and then eventually have the opportunity to meet with him.
You know what? Pat Powers told me the same story. Told me that story.
I don't know if Pat was on that team. I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure he is because he told me that.
Yeah, it could be. And maybe it happened at another time too, because
maybe.
I don't know if Pat played after 84. Like that's what I can't remember in my head. Like Stervertlik was there. So I think it was a little bit later, but I'm guessing almost the same thing happened for Pat. But it was that very much of like a rock star entered the gym and you don't know who it is, and then you look up and you can feel the emotion in the arena and how it took time to stop. And then obviously it was maybe strategery on Cuba's part if they happened before with Pat as well. that was pretty interesting. I know one time when we were in Japan, I would say pre-92, we were practicing in an arena, and a lot of arenas in Japan have a lot of glass around them. And there was a typhoon that was coming over, and we were practicing during the typhoon. We didn't realize the eye of the storm was over our gym, and the first team was kicking the crap out of the second team, and we had called a timeout. Like, we were winning. I think it was Gio who called the timeout. I was like, "Hey, get a drink, go to the sidelines." And at that time, the eye of the storm literally came over top of the gym and blew out the glass and put it down onto the floor where we were just standing.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty weird. Next thing you know, it's like hustle to the hallways. We were running, and they took us out of the gym. I'll never forget, because I was with Elena Oden. They called taxis to come pick us up from the gym to get us back to our hotel. And I had Elena Oden in the taxi with me, and we were at this street corner, and like bicycles were floating down the street, like all sorts of stuff. And I remember just looking at that taxi driver like, "You're not going, right? Like, don't you dare." And he would just smile at me, and I'm like, "Oh my God, we're gonna die just getting back to the hotel."
Wow. Caren, how much do you think the change, the game has changed in the last 35 years to today volleyball?
Well, obviously the point scoring system was a big change. I remember it was toward the end of my career when they were bringing in the point per score. And back then we only did the 5th game only. It went to rally mode. At first I didn't like it. And I tell kids today, like, back then you had to be in such incredible shape because our matches would go so much longer. Like, you had to side out. You could only score when you were serving. So you had to be in really good shape, which made for interesting tactics. It made for, you had to be a very, very complete player because, again, your substitution rules didn't change. So I think the point per score, it definitely speeded up the match, which helped.
Okay, another thing.
I think the libero, I have moments where I like the libero and I have moments where I don't. I think my greatest challenge with potentially any sport, but since we're specifically talking volleyball, I think we have gotten away from teaching somebody to play every single position or learning how to play all 6 rotations. Too often we say, "You're tall, you're middle, you're short, you're libero. You can't jump, you're going to be a setter. You're never going to play." Like, one of the beauties about the international game for me is that players are so adept to playing every single position on the court because you can't substitute. It's putting these 6 players out there with maybe this sub, this sub, this sub, and you go to war. It's not great for the growth of the game because it limits the number of people that could actually be on the court. But you really did see some of the most amazing all-round athletes that you can imagine. Like, Karch Karai for me is the epitome of an all-round player that could play any position on the court. Was one of the most gifted passers, an incredible defender, obviously a great attacker, and an incredibly smart blocker. Like, and you don't see all those packages. I mean, you do at the international level, but in that weird bubble of the higher levels of collegiate, yes, but then you see a natural fall off.
Okay, and if it were up to you, Caren, which rule of rules would you change for domestic or international volleyball?
That's a good question. If I said do away with bun huggers, would that offend somebody? Do you know what bun huggers are?
Hungers?
Bun huggers.
Bun huggers? No, I don't know.
So women wear like tights, like spandex, like they're not very comfortable to play in. In the old days, they were even a lot smaller. So I think jokingly, that's something I would look at is the equipment that we wear, and I think that's gotten better too. But really, a rule. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Okay. Okay, great. And one of the last questions, Caren, Was you playing a national team, playing abroad, playing overseas, playing in Japan? Which do you think are the main differences between maybe the American volleyball school or the European volleyball school and the Asian volleyball school?
Yeah, they're all very different, aren't they? I think the Asian culture, and again, I don't know if this has changed or if it's similar. I mean, they start them much younger and they take them into much more of a professional system at a younger age. Um, the American system, I tend to like the American system because you have the opportunity to choose your path. I think the European model is more so if you're going to go academic, you go academic, or you have the opportunity to go professional. You know, are they all good and bad? I'm not sure. You know, like I said, I'm not fond of taking really young kids and throwing them into high pressure, high physical activity because I think there's still a growth process that people must go through, whether it's physical, emotional. Sometimes we skip set steps when we put people in young ages in too high caliber positions. But then again, it's unusual when you see that many gifts. Like if you look at Garnett in basketball, like Kevin Garnett, like high school, Kobe Bryant, like really just unusual moments where these young men stepped right into the professional arena and made a career out of it. It usually doesn't happen that way.
Okay. In all of your career, Caren, which persons can you mention as your role models, as your influencers for your career in volleyball?
Yeah, that's a good one. I would obviously say Flo Hyman. I think Karch Karai. I think from a coaching one, this is will maybe surprise people. I think Greg Giovinazzi was probably the best coach I ever had.
Oh, really? In the national
Yeah,
team, Greg Giovanazzi?
he was on the national team. He was an assistant coach. For me, probably most fit my personality and was able to understand the way I learned. Um, and to this day, I will find myself doing little things or like tapping my clipboard. And I think about Gio because that was something he did. He just had the ability to put players at ease and give you confidence. And being successful, that's obviously, you can appreciate that's a big part of it. Um, I think he was a huge influence on my life, even though it was a small window of time. It was a great window of time with him.
Okay. And talking about Quincy University, which are the challenges for the next season and for the next seasons?
Well, obviously the conference is brutal. I mean, the MEDA is, one of the mainstays in men's volleyball. So I'm really excited for it. Like I can't wait to dig in and create, not only take the tools we have here now, but add to it. But even more, I think part of it is I really want to expose Quincy to this extremely high level of volleyball. I want this community to embrace this sport to the best of their ability and come in, because if you know this, if you go to a match once, you will most likely come back. It's for me like watching hockey in person. I love hockey in person. Once I've been to a hockey game in person, I will go back because they're so athletic, and the movements and everything they do and how fast it moves around the ice is very similar to me to men's volleyball. It just happens so fast. It's addicting. So I mean, I've got some pieces of the puzzle to put together. I think part of it is just instilling in them that they're going to be okay. They have to trust themselves and go back to the process of being fundamentally sound and having fun. There's not very many people I ever met in my life, that have been the top of their game said, I hate it. Part of the reason that they're successful is because they do enjoy it.
Yeah, right. I agree with you, Caren. And well, the last question,
Okay.
very interesting one. Which real Mexican food do you like the most? And Chipotle and Taco Bell are not Mexican food.
No, they're not. They're not. I've always wanted to go to Oaxaca.
Oh yeah, very nice place. Nice place to eat.
All the different peppers and everything. I'm a foodie. I love to cook. And that's been like probably the greatest thing for me that happened all those years of traveling, especially living abroad, is just fell in love with the different foods of cultures. I feel like if you can understand the food of a culture, you have an insight to politics, to religions, to families, like all those things. So food for me is the caveat for everything. What Mexican food? Is ceviche Mexican?
Yeah,
It's
ceviche.
Peruvian.
We have a variant. Peru has also
Yeah, Peru
ceviche,
has
but we have a very good ceviche in Mexico.
yeah, you do. I'm not a fan of chimichangas. I don't like those. I'm good with like just old-fashioned carnitas or carne asada.
Oh yeah.
Like yeah, like just carne asada, like well-cooked carne asada, and having the lime to put over it, and obviously a nice beer to go along with it.
And with a lot of guacamole.
Yes, I love Mexican food. I really really do. Like it's pretty cool. But I mean, I think every culture again has great food. Like when I was in Brazil, Paul and I just loved churrascarias. Where they bring the meat on the stick. Like
Yeah.
Paul and I would every week, like clockwork. We're gonna go do this. Japan obviously was great food. China has great food. Like every culture that I've been fortunate to travel has this wonderful palate to it, and I think that's really interesting.
And how good are you with hot sauce, with pepper?
Not bad. I will not go up. I won't go past like habaneros and things like that. But I love like mole, like moles. I love the moles with the peppers and the chocolate and everything in it.
Have you ever been in Mexico, in Oaxaca, a lot of times? I can
No,
imagine.
I've never been. I actually have a great book at home, and I know this is going to be great for. I have a huge book on Yucatan foods.
Oh yeah, Yucatan food is great. It's amazing.
Yeah. So this is my addiction. I buy cookbooks. I buy cookbooks and I read cookbooks like they're Stephen King novels. I just blow through them. Like I just think they're so interesting. But I've never been really deep into Mexico. I've been to Puerto Vallarta. But again, I don't like going to the tourist areas. I really want to get off the beaten path. And I've always heard about the different foods, especially in Oaxaca. Just the multitude of peppers, it just blows me away. Like the different, like walking through, like most people don't think like walking through food stalls or food markets is exciting. I think it's intriguing. Smells aren't always so great, but I think it's so intriguing to see the different varieties of fruits and meats and vegetables and spices that we would never see here in the US.
Yeah, well, and it's especially great here in Mexico when you go not exactly to Walmart. Walmart sells, of course, fruits and vegetables and all of that, but going to
true market,
city markets, to the markets, to neighborhood markets, it's a treasure.
It's incredible. And the first time I did that was in Italy when I lived in Ravenna. I wouldn't say every night, at least I didn't go down there every night, was the opportunity to go down and buy fresh mozzarella, like in the market. Like this is the best feeling ever, to walk through this market and get this fresh fruit and this fresh fruit. And that's what you cooked for the night. Nothing was processed or sitting in your refrigerator. You got your fresh fruit every single night from these people that were like true artisans. And it really did change my life.
And do you have a good Mexican restaurants in Quincy?
No. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I don't eat out a lot. I'm somebody, I'm more happy to cook for myself.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah. I think it's healthier, it's cheaper. And I don't like eating faux food. Does that make sense? Like Tex-Mex. Tex-Mex is good, but Tex-Mex has a different place. It's not true Mexican food. So yeah, I'm a kind of an odd bird when it comes on to things like that. But that's the one thing I wish I would have done sooner. Like when I officially retired from playing, I should have went to culinary school. I just didn't know how passionate I was going to be about it until later in life.
Okay. And which Mexican plate did you cook the best?
What do I cook the best? Oh, that's hard because I don't know exactly all the dishes. Like,
well, which dish did you enjoy to cook?
I'm pretty good at carnitas.
Carnitas.
Yeah, but I wish I had one of those big copper pans to do, everything. I don't have one of those. Carne asada is always great. Guacamole, my guacamole could be better, but I really want to learn how to do is really authentic tortillas.
I will send you a recipe.
Does that make sense? Like, I don't like buying processed ones, and I've never made them from scratch. I've always wanted to do that. I think that's where that's when I start looking at the fun things. And like I said, ceviche. I know that's not. I know there's a brand of ceviche in Mexico, and I know that's more Peruvian. But like I love ceviche, the different types of ceviche and things like that.
Yeah, well, I will send you a recipe for tortillas, for
That's
homemade
awesome.
tortillas.
Please do.
Yes, we in Mexico have white corn tortillas,
Yeah.
yellow corn tortillas,
Yep.
blue corn tortillas.
And I love corn.
Black corn
I
tortillas.
don't like flour. I love corn tortillas. They're so different.
For example, for me, it's pretty amazing when I went to one place. I don't remember it was Taco Bell or something in California. Hard shell tortillas.
Yeah.
That's not a taco. Taco is
No,
soft tortilla.
it's not a taco.
Not a taco.
Yeah.
And tacos with lettuce.
Yeah.
We don't need lettuce in. We don't put lettuce on tacos. Never.
It was the same like in Italy. Like, and again, part of the reason I think Italy, when I lived in Ravenna, was one of the first places that kind of kicked the door open because I went in and I didn't know what I was ordering. I had the menu, and I would just sit and look at it. And I was looking at my dictionary trying to find the words. And the lady who owned the restaurant went like this, and I thought, oh God, I'm in trouble. And no, she took me back into the kitchen, and she showed me what she was making, so I would understand what I saw on the menu and like put the words together with the item, like understanding what a mushroom was in Italian, and how this worked onto whether it was a pizza or a different type of pasta dish or a different pasta sauce. And I ate there a lot, like consistently, just because she was so eager to share with me and willing to, like, how to cook these meals.
I can see that you really enjoy your time in Italy with the food.
I did. It's always about food. Italy was awesome food. Brazil, probably my favorite place to live, and that's not to mean anything bad about any other culture. It's just amazing people. Again, intensely great food, and just I don't know. I just fit there. I fit in Brazil. Like many of those people are still good friends. Um, but I can tell you, if you called Paula, she would tell you, yes, this was great about the food in Brazil because we had it like clockwork. We loved the mangoes, we loved the churrascarias, we loved the guaraná, all those things.
Oh yeah, she told me that Paula White was in the show in October, November. I don't know. I don't remember. I can't remember. It's 159 shows.
Yeah.
But yeah, she told me that she really enjoyed her time in both in Brazil and Italy.
Yeah. And she was in Italy for a lot of years.
Yeah.
Like I said, and I was in Italy for 2 years, loved it, great experience. Was in Brazil for 2 years, loved it. Was in Japan for 2 years, loved it. The only thing I think Paula and I can attest to is when we were in Japan is we were there when the earthquake hit. So that was a little bit of a life-altering experience. And unfortunately,
in Kobe.
Yeah, we both lived in Kobe at that time.
Yeah, Mireya told me that also that she was.
Yeah, because she came in my place because I had blown my knee. And so Maria and Magali came, and then I was able to come back, not to play, but after everything calmed down between the earthquake and my injuries, I was able to come back and watch the finals.
With Daye Orange Attackers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Mireya sold me a jacket of Daye 25 years ago.
I still have mine. I still wear it in the winter. Has really? My orange attacker on the shoulder. Yep.
Oh yeah, I remember that very well.
Yep.
Well, Caren, thanks a lot. This has been an amazing talk. I'm really thankful with you. I'm still nervous, trust me, because you were my idol, my joke. The only other talk I was so nervous was when I talked with Coach, because Coach is the GOAT, is the greatest of all time. What can you ask to Coach?
Yeah.
And this is my second. I'm really, really very excited because I'm talking with you, Caren. Thanks a lot for being here in the show. And please send a final message to all the people who are watching us.
Hey, just be good to each other. enjoy this life. Let's move through this pandemic. We have a lot of work to do in our world, and sport has an amazing way of bringing together these phenomenal conversations and memories, and we should all cherish those.
Okay, thanks a lot, Caren. Please stay safe.
Thank you.
Hope to see you someday in a volleyball court.
Yeah. Oh no. Not on it. Maybe nearby it, but not on it.
In the bench of Quincy
There we go.
University.
In the bench.
See you, Caren. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.